is open, so you can continue to ask questions through that Q&A function. And at the end, we will also, as I said, have an opportunity for you to raise your hand and ask verbal questions. All right, and next up, I think we'll give a quick overview of what the Accelerator is. Perfect, thank you so much. So this bidders conference and RFP, as I noted, are part of the New England Heat Pump Accelerator program, and you'll hear us just continue to refer to it as just the Accelerator throughout the meeting today. The Accelerator, as I mentioned, is a result of a coalition where we have been selected and awarded about $450 million from the EPA, or the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. In terms of the request for proposal, I wanted to note specifically that the Accelerator is a new program to facilitate and accelerate availability and access to residential cold climate heat pumps and ground source heat pumps and heat pump hot water heaters across the coalition states. Our goals for this Accelerator are to reduce GHG emissions by 2.2 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent through a variety of different time periods. And of course, to do that, we need to stand up quite a few components relatively quickly. In order to achieve those GHG emissions reductions, we are specifically working towards supporting some midstream heat pump incentives, supporting a education and outreach sort of hub, and in addition to that, putting together a variety of innovative pilots to support technology deployment in new areas, especially those areas that support low income and disadvantaged communities. So thank you, Erin. The next slide is those three hubs. I wanted to note that the implementer that we're seeking through this RFP process would be supportive of all three of these hubs. Again, those midstream incentives for heat pumps, which we refer to as the market hub, that innovation hub for sort of pilot and innovative projects, and of course that research hub, which of course is going to be data and education and outreach components. All right, if we can move to the next slide, I want to just give a little bit more information about this RFP specifically. So just how this process works. As part of this RFP, once proposals come in, there is an evaluation team that will help to review all of those proposals. That evaluation team will consist of all of the states that are part of this coalition and will be supported by NEEP and NESCOM, again, those two organizations that are supporting the coalition and helping us to really convene and navigate all of these technical details. Once a selection recommendation is put forward, then Connecticut Deep will be the entity that is actually working on the contracting process. And so Connecticut Deep does have final selection and then all of those contracting steps. All right, next slide. Great, thank you, Erin. All right, our schedule, I will acknowledge, is a bit hectic. We have a lot to do in a short period of time, and so I hope everybody can work with us to accommodate. First up, we did release a request for information early on to help inform our RFP process. That was actually released on January 8th. We had a technical conference to, of course, help inform the launch of this program as well on January 24th. From there, public comments were due from that request for information on the 29th of January. From there, we did issue this implementer RFP on February 28th, which hopefully you all have reviewed in detail. Today, we're hosting today's bidder conference. Tomorrow, as a friendly reminder, is our deadline for written question submission. So again, please do make sure that you submit any written questions to us by tomorrow, March 11th. We are committed to making sure that we get written responses to you by March 21st, and that will be all the written responses will be posted on our website. From there, the proposal due date is April 4th by 5 p.m. And then from there, I will say subject to change, but we will work very hard to try to get our proposer selection in May of this year. We're hoping to have contract negotiations starting right thereafter and trying to launch the Accelerator by Q4 of 2025. All right, next slide, please. Thanks so much, Erin. Communication-wise, if you have any questions about this RFP or are looking to, again, submit those written questions to us, please make sure that all communications do go through our official contact. And again, that is in the RFP document, but that's katrina.valette@ct.gov. Please make sure that all communication go through that email address so that we can make sure that we're receiving them. Also want you to note that you should be able to find all information about this RFP in 2 locations. The first is Connecticut Deep's New England Heat Pump Accelerator webpage, and that's linked on this slide deck. And again, this recording and the slide deck will be posted on that same page after this meeting today. But you should be able to keep up with everything that's happening related to this RFP by visiting that webpage. In addition, the RFP is also posted specifically on Connecticut's source bid board. When you go there, you do need to be able to search for deep RFPs, and we've put on this slide the specific number to that to this RFP, so you can pull it up directly. So please do take a look there. That's where you'll also officially need to be submitting things for your bid proposal, is through the Connecticut bid board. All right. In addition to that, again, friendly reminders on really important dates. Tomorrow is the written question deadline, and then we will be posting responses by March 21st. Right. Submittal instructions. Please do submit your proposals through that contracting portal. And again, if you have any questions or issues with that, please reach out to the official contact. And so we can help to make sure that you're able to submit. Also wanted to flag for folks that, of course, you would be submitting things to Connecticut. And as a state government, everything that we receive is subject to our Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. If you believe that any portion of your proposal it could be exempt from FOIA, you need to take proactive action and make sure that you submit a version that is redacted, that could be for public consumption, and a version that clearly marks the items that you think are confidential, and you need to also describe why you believe they are exempt from FOIA. So please note, again, everything that comes to government is subject to FOIA, so you've got to be very clear that whatever you've submitted, if there's a confidential component, please do mark that extremely clearly, and again, state your rationale for why you believe it is exempt. Also wanted to let you know that anything that is not marked as confidential will be available to the public. So just want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. All right, next slide, please. All right, other important friendly reminder here. Please do take a detailed look at the RFP itself. It does give you specific instructions for just the organization of your bid. So please do look very carefully there. There is an Appendix C, which really does list out a proposal checklist of all the things that you need to have included. There's also just an organizational structure that we request everybody use so that we can easily evaluate these things. In addition to that, there is a budget template that is provided in the RFP as well, and you are required to use that. All right, next slide, please. Thanks. All right, so evaluation criteria here. Just wanted to give a quick summary for everybody. Again, all of this detail is in the RFP itself, but first up, about 25% of the evaluation will be focused on organizational experience. 30% is on strategy and work plan. Oop, and I apologize, I've got a bit of an echo. Oh, there you go. 25% is then on program management, data and reporting. And then 20% is really focused on budget, including cost competitiveness and financial management. So that's high level how things will be scored and compared. All right, and next slide. Thanks so much, Erin. All right, with that, that was a brief overview of, again, what the Accelerator is, what we're looking for here in terms of the RFP. I would love to now open it up for questions. In terms of process here, we'll first go and allow people to raise their hands, and we'll work to answer questions for people that are asking verbally with the raise hand feature. From there, if we do have time, we will look through the Q&A portion as well and try to answer those questions verbally. Again, just friendly reminder, please note that anything that we are sharing here verbally, we will want to provide formal written responses to, and we will provide those by the 21st. And again, all written responses are the final responses. So please do make sure that even if you hear us respond in real time now, please make sure that you check those responses on the 21st of March to make sure that you see the final language. All right, with that, I will open it up. If folks have questions, please raise your hand. If you have trouble finding the raise hand feature, I believe it's under the reactions or react button, and we'll call on people in order. All right, I see Mark first. Can you come off mute, Mark?
I'm first? Wow. Hello, my name is Mark Rodriguez. I'm the Chief Engineering Officer of the Solar App Foundation. And I was wondering if the accelerator is intended to support the permitting of heat pumps in the region.
Great question. I'm wondering if anybody from the team wants to try to take that.
I can take a crack at that. Hi, Mark. Good question. I would say that is among any number of strategies that could be incorporated into a market transformation strategy, particularly through the Innovation Hub, which is a bit more open-ended at this point and more open for the regional implementer, the states, and community groups with ideas to bring their best ideas forward. So it's certainly possible, but not necessarily the case that the accelerator will involve permitting reforms or other permitting related activities.
All right, thanks for that.
Thanks, Emily. All right, next up I have Allison Donovan.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Hi, I'm wondering if you could clarify the role of the community outreach groups with regard to implementing stakeholder outreach activities. Will the regional implementer have primary responsibility for generating stakeholder engagement, or will this responsibility lie with or be shared with the regional convener?
I can start that question. Yes. So great question. I think how we're envisioning it, it'll be sort of a shared role with the regional convener. But I think as outlined in the RFP, there are a couple of specific tasks and feedback that we will work with the regional implementer to receive. So it will be kind of a hybrid role between the two parties that we'll be working out.
Great, thanks, Erin. Next up, we've got Ashley Paulsworth.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. My question was if you will be making your application to the EPA available for review during this time.
That's a great question. I think maybe I should poke at Rebecca French here as to whether or not we have publicly posted that. I'm not sure if we have.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, folks are wondering whether or not we could share our application to EPA.
Share our application to EPA. I think we've shared quite a bit of it in the RFI, so we can certainly should look in the request for information. That's publicly posted on our website. We haven't posted our full, just really pulled from EPA application, but I'll say this one, I'll further take that into writing. So I would encourage you to send that question in writing in case we want to respond and post more information. But
yeah, okay. I have a second question if you're ready.
Please, yeah.
Okay, and the RFP mentions that the proposer should have experience working with a third-party evaluator for greenhouse gas emissions, and was wondering if you have selected a third-party evaluator, or if you're going to require us to use one, or if that's an in-house expertise that we can provide. If we have independently verified greenhouse gas emissions ourselves, and I'm just curious about that.
Yes, I think maybe I can start to take this, but Rebecca, please jump in, or Erin. We do expect to issue a separate evaluator RFP.
Okay.
So that will be a separate process. That said, in terms of whether or not you'd want to sort of note your expertise,
Yep.
I think part of the RFP, I think, is very clear that we'd like to hear all about your expertise and qualifications. And so I think there is an opportunity to explain that in a bid response.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm seeing a lot of people on the call, but not very many hands. Anybody else want to ask a verbal question? Otherwise, I do see a couple in the Q&A that we can also talk through. All right, I'm going to jump to the Q&A then, just to talk through those quick. But if folks need to or want to raise your hand, if you think of something else, don't hesitate. All right, first up is a question from Aaron Kemperster, and I'm apologies if I am butchering people's last names. I apologize profusely. My last name as well constantly gets butchered, so apologies. Will a recording of the January 24th technical conference be posted? I believe that it was, so I will actually toss that to Aaron to make sure that I'm not misspeaking.
We haven't, it has not been posted yet, but we have it ready to post. I would just say that things were crazy last month.
All good.
But yes, we can get that up shortly.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Great question. We'll make sure that that gets posted. All right, next question is from Charlie Taylor. The RFP states that the resulting contract will be funded by EPA and consequently will contain applicable federal terms and conditions. The contract will be subject to controlling federal statutes and regulations, including but not limited to ... CPRG administrative and programmatic conditions applicable to the EPA award to Connecticut Deep, grant number, etc. Those terms and conditions did not appear to be included in the RFP. Can Connecticut Deep provide the CPRG administrative and programmatic conditions applicable to the EPA award to Connecticut Deep that are referred to in the RFP for review? I have to admit, I think that one's a legal question that we'll probably want to just make sure that our legal team takes a look at as to whether we can share those in advance. So again, everything that's going into the Q&A or being asked verbally here, we will incorporate into our written responses that you'll get back on March 21st, and we'll make sure that we get you a written response on that one. Thanks for that question, Charlie. Good call. Next question in the Q&A is from Ashley Paulsworth. Will you be posting a teaming list? That's a good question. I'm not sure we've even considered that, to be honest. So let's take that one back in writing as well, because I think we need to think about the best way to support folks. But it's good to know that folks are interested in that. So thank you for asking that question, Ashley. Other questions from folks?
There is a question in the chat that I'll just voice, although I've asked that person to move it to the Q&A. There are some discrepancies in the RFP with regard to the start and end dates of the accelerator. Can you clarify the anticipated start and end dates?
I'm scared that I will get it wrong, so I'm going to look at Aaron and Rebecca to just make sure that we say the exact right thing.
Pulling up the document. We have the accelerator launching in Q4 of 2025, and that is the launch date. I know in the RFP, we also mentioned that we can do kind of phases of starting. So we can kick it off in fall of 2024 and launch the full accelerator later. But fall of 2024 is the start date that we have. I believe the end date, I have to do math, but it would be October, 5 years out from the signing of the contract. But we'll respond in writing.
October 2029, I believe, would be the end date. And that speaks to why we are eager to launch the program as soon as realistically possible, because we've been under contract since last fall, but it takes time to engage an implementer and get the program started. And any delay in getting the program launched eats into the time we have available to implement the program before the end of the program in 5 years. So yeah, that speaks to the overall timeline.
Great, thank you, folks. And I am seeing in the chat that it sounds like if anybody's joining on the mobile version, they might not be able to access the Q&A. So we are monitoring the chat too. If you're on only your mobile device and you need to put stuff in the chat, please feel free.
There is another Q&A question.
Yeah, I see one from Revi Gorthala. Revi's question is this funding committed to DEEP by EPA and any chance of being cut by DOGE? Oh, sad face included. So at this point, I do think what we can publicly say to everybody is that at this point, these funds are contractually obligated to Connecticut DEEP, and so we have a contract with EPA, and we are working very hard to meet the requirements of that contract. But that's probably as much as I can add.
Well,
Rebecca, anything else? Yeah,
I can add a teeny bit more. That currently our grant award is active. We can draw down funds, and we are actively engaged with our EPA program officers. So that is the current status, and that's about as much as we can say or no, really.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right. One other question in the Q&A from Ashley Paulsworth. Do you have an attendee list from your RFI process? I know we do have the attendee list. I don't believe we have publicly posted it anywhere. So Ashley, do you mind just clarifying? Are you asking if we could publicly post that?
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to know, who provided input into the design of the RFP, and just as we're considering, how we'll include like local, I want to call them like community organizations and other stakeholders in the process. It'd be good to have a sense for who they all are.
Great. No, thank you for the question. I think we will have to probably give you back a answer in writing on that one. Because again, we just have disclosure processes at the state, but
Sure.
Thank you for asking. That's really great.
Yeah.
Right, let me just check the chat as well. All right, haven't seen any more come in. Any other questions from folks? Right, I see a couple more in the Q&A. Ashley, thank you for reposting. We'll make sure to get you a written response. Next up, we've got Deanne Welker. A question from Deanne is, will we receive all of the questions to live questions in writing? And yes, everything that's being asked verbally here, we will make sure to get noted down. Everything that's being asked in either the chat or the Q&A will also be part of our written responses. But in addition to that, tomorrow, by tomorrow, you can also submit other questions in writing. And again, all of these questions will be compiled into one place, and DEEP will be providing written answers to all of them. Right. Other questions for folks? Maybe the one other thing I should flag for folks about written responses. We have obviously committed to make sure that they're posted by March 21st. Please do note, probably check the New England Heat Pump Accelerator webpage consistently. That's the website that DEEP directly can update pretty quickly. So we will definitely make sure questions are posted there, or responses to questions are posted there by March 21st. The Connecticut Bid Board will also have all of the same documents, but I want to just flag for folks that there is a bit of a process to get things up there. And so if for some reason on the 21st you don't see responses on the bid board, please make sure to check the New England Heat Pump Accelerator website. We will do our best to make sure that written responses are posted in both locations on that date. But I just want to let people know that that bid board is a little bit more of a process to get things posted. All right, any other questions from folks? I will also flag since we don't have lots of people raising your hand, if you're struggling to find the raise hand feature or anything else, feel free to just come off mute as well. Though I recognize maybe we haven't given everybody permission there to do so, but if you could indicate in the chat or other ways, we're happy to help unmute you. Gosh, it's a quiet crowd. I'm not seeing too many questions come in. Aaron, do you mind just tossing up? Oh, I see one more question that came into the chat. We'll tackle this one. This one is from Jay Rasmussen. Do you anticipate any additional state designated implementers in addition to Maine? I will probably toss that to Aaron to respond. Does that seem appropriate?
I can start, and if I do, if anyone would like to add. So right now, I was going to say we don't have anything set in stone yet with our states, but we've had many discussions with Maine, so we know that they will be the state designated implementer for their state. And at this point, we are figuring things out for the other states. But we just wanted to make sure in the RFP, Maine was specifically called out so that anyone that responds is prepared. Emily, do you want to add anything more? Yeah.
Yeah, I would add a distinction between the market hub and the innovation hub, both of which have the option for a state to implement its own program. We think it is fairly likely that Efficiency Maine will be the only state designated implementer for the market hub, and we see a high value in having a regionally consistent market hub offering. That's, like Erin said, not completely finalized, but that's our current expectation, although some discussions are continuing. There is an option. The Innovation Hub has two components. Community-based smaller projects that we anticipate the regional implementer will coordinate and manage across all of the coalition states, but then also larger scale multi-year state-based initiatives. Those are larger scale projects designed to achieve state priorities on their key market barriers, the key obstacles they're encountering to advancing heat pump adoption in underserved households and communities. So there is an option, excuse me. There is the possibility that some states will choose to directly implement the larger scale innovation hub projects in their state. That is to be determined. We've kind of set it up both ways. So some states may choose to leverage the regional implementer for that role, while others may choose to implement their own program. The other important note is that even where there is a state designated implementer, the funds still need to flow through the regional implementer. So there will still be a coordination and administrative responsibility, though the day-to-day operations would be managed by the state designated implementer for the market hub or the innovation hub. I hope that was somewhat clear. I know it's rather confusing.
No, thank you, Emily and Aaron. Jay, please let us know if that didn't answer your question or you have a follow-up. Feel free to put that in the chat. I see another question that came in from the Q&A. Ashley Paulsworth is asking, is there a list of other state programs that we need to coordinate with? I don't believe we've provided a comprehensive list at this point. There are quite a few. I could speak from having spoken with quite a few of our coalition states that all of our states are very proud of the programs that we currently have in place, and there are quite a few of them. So Ashley, appreciate you asking that question, and we'll try to get you a response in writing. Emily, is there something you want to add?
I would note in the RFP, footnote 7 specifically identifies the current energy efficiency program administrators and heat pump program administrators, including but not limited to implementers of Energize CT, Efficiency Maine, Mass Save, New Hampshire Saves, and Rhode Island Energy. So those programs were specifically identified, but there may be others. The goal here is to try to coordinate to the greatest extent possible with any programs that could be serving the same market.
Thank you, Emily. Yeah, and I will say those program administrators are great places to start, right? They have the majority of programs across these states. Right, any other questions from folks? Right, I'm not seeing other questions. Erin, do you mind just putting up maybe the timeline slide so that we can just remind folks? There we go. Ashley's got another question.
No,
Say,
I'm
Ashley, don't be
sorry.
shy.
I feel like I'm just like asking all the questions.
It's
But
fine.
so in terms of, and part of it is, like I'm just thinking of what you've already decided or what you already have in your vision for this. And in terms of the innovation hub and these community, I guess it says state and community level grants. Do you have like a rate, like a size for these grants that you're thinking, or like a number in mind, or is it sort of just like open at this time and you just want to see what we think?
It's a great question. Maybe Erin, do you mind talking at a high level of just where we are with sort of conversations with other states on this?
Yes, yeah. So we have included in the RP, there will be about 90 million in the Innovation Hub.
Yeah.
And so we're currently talking through the states about what that allocation will look like for the different grant amounts. I would say I think the best way to answer is if we'll follow up in writing and give the specifics that we can give for that
Okay.
amount. I'm not sure if it's, yeah, I just want to wait till then to give any numbers. But maybe I might leave it there. We have the 90 million marked off in the RFP, and yes, we are working with the states to allocate the funding. I believe the other maybe high level takeaway is that we're envisioning the state level grants to be a bit bigger and multi-year, whereas the community-based grants will be more small, kind of quick start grants at the community level. But we'll talk internally and see if there's any more INS can provide.
I would add that this is an area that is still under discussion with the states, as Erin said. So it is an area that is not set in stone and for which we would welcome additional input if any of the proposers have viewpoints or recommendations. Those would be welcome. We'll see what the states, they will ultimately decide. So they may not accept all the recommendations, but we would welcome your thoughts on the best way to allocate and approach those funds.
That makes me think of another question.
Yeah, please.
And then is there a process that you all have as this consortium has developed for decision making at this time.
So that one I'm
Yeah.
going to toss to Aaron too, because NEEP at this point and NESCOM are helping in our convener role, and so they can
Yeah.
sort of talk to that process a little bit. But again, I will say at high level right now, because
Okay.
I'm not sure we have everything in place.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll answer that, and yes, just also kind of lean on the fact that Becca highlighted that it was high level at this point, but we are currently in the process of creating, we have the state, I'm sorry if everyone can hear the train going past my house right now.
All good.
Okay. We have a state advisory council that we've set up, and we're in the process of making bylaws to outline the decision-making processes for the state, so that there will be a way to decide and make decisions from the 5 states within the coalition. And then our hope is that we'll be able to use the bylaws in that framework, and then hopefully once we have the regional implementer on, work to make sure that decisions are being made as they're needed throughout the process. But we have a process to make decisions between the 5 states, but we're getting the ball, I guess, kind of rolling on finalizing some of those decisions right now.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
Thanks for the questions, Ashley. That's great.
I would just add that we are mindful of not setting up a process where every tiny little decision requires approval by 5 states. We want the program to be implementable and not be overly cumbersome. So there will be processes and bylaws and meaningful involvement of all of the states, but we also want to be wise about the level of depth the states need to be involved with, and we want to make sure that decisions can be made quickly when needed as well. So would just note that we are trying to strike a balance that way.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Any other questions from folks? Right, I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A or the chat. Don't see any hands raised either. Can we give folks a few more minutes just to see if things pop into your head? But again, Aaron, if you don't mind pulling up maybe that timeline slide, I just would love to make sure folks are fully aware. And again, friendly reminder, please do submit written questions to us by tomorrow. Again, we'll get everything that you've asked verbally here, everything that's been in the chat and in the Q&A, but any other questions that come to you or that you really want to ask, please make sure you submit them by tomorrow. Then we can make sure to get you responses in writing. Also friendly reminder, of course, we're doing our best to answer questions in real time right now. But again, final responses are going to be those in writing that are posted on March 21st. Any other questions from folks? Right, I'm not seeing anything come in. Thinking, Aaron, can you remind me, did the notification for this bidders conference indicate a time frame or just the start time?
It did indicate a time frame.
Okay, I'm just wondering
until
if we should,
3.
yeah, I'm wondering if we should just put up a slide that lets folks know that we'll probably end early if folks don't have additional questions, but we could leave a slide up that lets everybody know to submit things in writing. Of course, we can stay on for a few more minutes, folks. Want to make sure that if folks are thinking or talking with other teammates to figure out what questions you might want to ask, we can give you a few more minutes to, raise your hand or put something in the chat. But I also don't want to keep everybody here if we're not having a lot of questions come in. All right. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate folks that are saying thank you in the chat. We appreciate you all asking questions and joining today. Maybe the team can simply stay on. Let's plan on staying on until maybe 2 o'clock, just in case other folks pop in or have questions. But otherwise, again, we'll put up a slide that helps everybody know that we ended early and that written questions could still be submitted to the right location by tomorrow. All right, thank you so much, everybody. Feel free to jump off if you've had your questions answered. Thanks so much, folks. Appreciate it. All right, we do have one more question that came in the Q&A from Deanne Welker. Will you be sending out the slides from this call? I had trouble joining and missed the first portion. Yes, the recording of this will be posted. In addition to that, we could post the slides as well. That's easily done. Thanks for asking that, Deanne.
I just thought,
yeah, please, Ashley.
Okay, if you're ready. Okay, so do you guys have any vision for integrating this with home energy rebates? Like, how are you thinking of doing that? Or will you at some point like provide information, as to how you are doing that? Obviously you might not have thought it all the way through yet, but kind of going to be some overlap there.
You want to take the first stab, Erin? Yeah, I might have thoughts too.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that have to do with the home energy rebates interaction with the accelerator. The first is we are cognizant of the fact that the home energy rebates can't actually be combined with the CPRG funding because for a measure, as we all understand, home energy rebates have very specific requirements on them, and so they can't be blended with CPRG funding. So our intention in setting this program up is to we've been meeting with states to see what their plans are so that we're not initially going to maybe run into a situation where both would be available for the same measure, or that we can set up a program where there's some kind of acknowledgement that when you're getting the rebate from our program, this is coming from CPRG. And so it won't, if you are implementing the rebates, the IRA rebates for your state, it's clear that you shouldn't be intermingling these two funds. So our plan is to not have them intermingle and to create kind of clear, separate pathways. But we have to work with every state and their landscape of programs as we sort that out.
Okay. And I mean, just especially thinking about the market hub piece, and those incentives, and in your home energy rebates, and this is probably not something you can answer, but all of the states have probably had some stakeholder engagement processes for home energy rebates, you know, maybe with some of the distributors and manufacturers already. So there's just some kind of efficiency to be gained from that, I'm guessing, in the implementation of this program. And so I wonder if there is an easy way, maybe not now, but once this gets rolling, to just kind of get those groups together and hear like a summary of where each state stands in the implementation of home energy rebates and what their plan is for doing it, so that as this one's being administered, we can, you know, like take advantage of that, what they've already done and build on it. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, thank you for that recommendation, and we're definitely hoping to have a little more public engagement with this funding now that everything's a little more secure.
Great. Okay. Just want to share that the reason I'm thinking about that is because of some of the smaller distributors. Like I just know that it's been somewhat challenging to work with smaller distributors on home energy rebates and make sure that they're included and so on. And so, you know, regionally, you've got probably many more of them to consider. Okay.
Appreciate you sharing, Ashley. Okay, let me see if anything else has come in. I don't see anything else. Right, again, we will stay on for a few more minutes in case other folks think of questions. Also, please don't be worried about dropping off. We will post a recording of this as well, if other folks join in a few more minutes and ask some other questions. But thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate your time and the great questions.
All right, guys, I'm satisfied. I'm gonna go. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Glad you joined.
Have a good week. All right, bye-bye.
Right. Again, I think let's stay on just till 2, just so we can probably say on the slide that we ended at that time, and you know, let folks know that they can still submit things in writing.
Mm-hmm. Wait, just so I'm clear, do you want me to leave the slide up until 2?
Sure, we can. Yeah, why not?
Or longer, or do you want us all to stay on until 2?
Oh
and
no,
then the
I will say
slides?
after, yeah, because I think the calendar hold went until 3. I think we'll have to just leave the slide up until 3. So I don't think all of us have to stay on. But if somebody can just leave the meeting open so that if anybody joins, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for doing that, Erin.
No problem.
All right, and with that, I think we've officially reached 2 o'clock, and I think we've tried to answer all the questions that at least have come into this time. So we will officially adjourn the Bidders Conference, and we'll put up a slide just letting folks know that if they join past this time at 2 o'clock, that they should submit their questions in writing by tomorrow, and we will get back to everybody in writing by March 21st. Thank you, everybody, for adjourning. I think we can stop recording as well.